So Chris Algieri defeats Tommy Coyle via 8-round stoppage. Jamie Moore, the trainer of Tommy Coyle, pulled him out after the 8th round. Tommy Coyle was very, very upset. He didn't want to be pulled out in Madison Square Garden. He wanted to keep on fighting. Personally, I think Jamie Moore made the correct decision pulling Tommy Coyle out there. By the 8th round, he was starting to take a bit of a beating off Algieri. His hands were down, and I think the last punch of the round was when Coyle's hands were pretty much down. Algieri threw this very slow right hand, and just Tommy Coyle just couldn't move his head. So I think it was a compassionate stoppage by the corner of Tommy Coyle, and I think it was the right thing to do. Let's talk about this fight. This fight started off at a reasonably slow pace. The first round was kind of a nothing round. He gave it to Algieri. Second round, Tommy Coyle actually buzzed Algieri. And, you start to think this is interesting because going into this fight, we know Chris Algieri, he fought Ruslan Provodnikov, won the WBO light welterweight title years ago now. And then he fought Manny Pacquiao. He was up and down off the canvas several times in that fight. Had a close fight with Amir Khan. He actually buzzed Amir Khan on more than one occasion in that fight, which shows just how chinny Amir Khan is, because Chris Algieri, this is his 9th stoppage in over 30 fights. So, not a puncher. Definitely not a puncher. Certainly not at welterweight. And this is at light welter. And he buzzed Amir Khan. And then he had his fight against Errol Spence. That was in 2016. He got wiped out in 5 rounds fairly quickly by Spence. And then he was out of the ring for over 2 years. He's now 35 years old. And you could see the sharpness that was once there with Algieri. It's not quite there anymore. But that being said, he did still look a level above Tommy Coyle, to be fair. He had Tommy Coyle down in the 4th round from a good body shot. There was a body shot that started it off. You could see Tommy Coyle wincing in pain. Algieri back up again the ropes and then unloaded. And Tommy Coyle took a knee. And it looked like it might be over then. But actually, Tommy Coyle, as the Sky commentators have said, when he's hurt, that's probably when he's at his most dangerous. And it was, because even though he didn't buzz Algieri, he definitely fought back. And by the end of the round, Tommy Coyle actually looked the stronger of the two. But that being said, as the rounds progressed, it started to become, I don't want to say one-way traffic in Algieri's favour, because Tommy Coyle has moments in there. There were moments where Chris Algieri would walk into a right hand, and there was a bit of damage to the eyes of Chris Algieri. There was a bit of, blackening under the eyes of Algieri, but it wasn't that major. He never seemed to be in massive trouble in this fight. Whereas Tommy Coyle, there was always a sense of, even though Algieri's not known as a big puncher, but you could tell that these shots, they were having an accumulative effect on Tommy Coyle. And you just got the sense that it was only a matter of time. You couldn't see this fight going the full 12 rounds, of which it didn't. As I said, Jamie Moore pulled Tommy Coyle out after the 8th round. Tommy Coyle was very upset about that because he felt, Madison Square Garden, didn't want to be pulled out. You would. I mean, most fighters would rather, fight on until they can't fight anymore, which is why we have cornermen, to prevent fighters from going a round or two too long and then, being seriously hurt. So it was a good stoppage by the corner. Chris Algieri gets the win. He's back at 140 pounds. Who do we have at 140 pounds? We've Josh Taylor and Regis Prograis. That's in the World Boxing Super Series final. So they're kind of tied up now for the minute. Who is the WBA champion? The WBA. Who is the WBC champion? I know the guy, but I forget. He's one of Bob Arum's fighters. I think I know the guy, but I can't think of his name. And of course, we have Maurice Hooker. I would imagine that Maurice Hooker versus Chris Algieri would be the likely fight to be made next. Maurice Hooker is an interesting fighter. I've never massively rated him, but I do think Chris Algieri, I don't think he's quite the fighter he once was. I think he's good enough to beat the likes of Tommy Coyle, but the Chris Algieri who fought Provodnikov, the Chris Algieri who, even though he lost, fought Manny Pacquiao, fought Amir Khan, I don't think we have that anymore. I don't think he's as sharp. I don't think he's as fast. So he probably would go into the fight as an underdog against Maurice Hooker if that fight happens. But we'll wait and see. For the time being, this was a good fight. It was a decent enough performance from both guys. Chris Algieri got the win. Tommy Coyle, it's unfortunate. He gave it all. He tried his best. It's just, there was just a gap there. Chris Algieri was just a level above, and no shame in losing to Chris Algieri. Again, good stoppage from the corner men. Jamie Moore, credit to him, pulling Tommy Coyle out. I think just at the right time as well. Because I was thinking when I saw him walking back after the 8th, they might want to think about stopping this. They did. And that's all she wrote. So let me know what you think down below. This is the first fight I've seen on this card. So I'm contemplating whether or not to sit through the whole thing or just wake up a little bit later. I don't know. We'll see. Let me know what you think down below. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And as always, I will talk to you after.